Hello, America. My name is Anthony Wall, and I was next to the World Trade Center towers the morning of the World Trade Center attack and the night before it. And I was an observer in the court in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers the morning of the attack. And I was attached to fake conversations about that with the CBS. And that's with the difference of the guilt of their intelligence or the innocence of their intelligence or the ones next to them or conjunctive to them. That's also being have been exploited, which is also evidence or evidential rather. So all sides of criminal and civil cases and people involved further with a principal child abuser. They prevented him from reporting things. And they forced him to collusion with things too. But this was also reported, there's also people, I don't even know their name, they know my name, tied to the corner of Knott Street and Walker Hill Road, for example, with syntax and people putting fake intelligence and people at Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College. FBI Director Robert Luskin, various natures of federal criminals, people involved with the World Trade Center attack. They have they have a bunch of people tied to I get fake conversations with me, planting evidences between campuses I went behind my back, and then trying to make it act and make it look like I had conversations with them, so others take pictures, whatever. And they're changing and faking, putting fake audio and video transcripts into branch and foreign at the same time. And these are people then further hyper additionally with the state judicial branch offices and state corrections offices but hyper additionally with all names on all sides of criminal and civil cases in the interbranch and foreign at the same time. Their families, their sources, their neighbors kept hiding the same sequence shifts, the same evidences treatments, exceptions treatments. They can't defend that and afford defenses of anyone properly at the same time. Simultaneously, the people are preventing the leaders free speech while they're forcing them to pretend other. And simultaneously, other ways the leaders are preventing the people free speech while they're making them pretend other, exactly the way James Madison explained about this, why and how there's a breaching method. You guys have they also declassified. We're directed to not entertain people pretending to have been to a known founder besides James Madison. He is the only founder we know the name of. He is the one that explained why and how. There were even slavery laws that they wanted nothing to do with slavery, nothing to do with laws against all women, all against all Native Americans. All exceptions in exception nature, the breaching method forced everyone to fight, had forced the native people to fight against the native people before Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, before the religious messengers of modern religions were born. Already, from off campuses, the names of the people of sciences were taken, apart from the obligations by the names of the people of sciences for their words and for how they're supposed to appreciate the words of others like me. Interbranch put me in fake transcripts and put fake things in databases at the same time with the news, who also has and has had collusion /S with use /S remotely of all natures of investigators, and of their campuses. And things are like that aren't debatable legitimately. In other words, and we're gonna have to pay attention because, in other words, first of all, get me off the fake conversations with the news and the interbranch, and from the name switching and sequence shifting, and then onto paper. They also put me with a whole bunch. These are a whole bunch of people tied to a Leahy family with Harvard Hospital. I never had a word of conversation with anyone. A bunch of people, men and women, in their family. So 3 times people at Harvard Hospital have collusions with. The first time there, I was there 3. I didn't have any conversations with them. They put fake things in databases. And then other times they're trying to make fake exceptions a two-word conversation. They have multiple courts, personally and professionally involved with the people there, and the courts themselves. They have in other words, you have to get these people on paper because there are more people involved with, you know, recorded threats, and plus have just because they work there. In other words, even if they're undercover, they have overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved with them actually overt criminal enterprise. I mean, international companies, criminally foreign influence international companies charged or not, and terrorists the same way originally. Weathersfield police have a Mendez officer who put me in fake conversations with him and with one of the Saudis. That they forced the whole country of Saudi Arabia to collusions with Claudia Scalora and people involved with the World Trade Center and the spots next to it the night before. And interstates too, with people with all these countries, like with Florida and stuff involved with the programs at Central Connecticut State University, where they train police forums and educators. They're putting people on the campuses who have collusions, and their sense and sensibilities have been used remotely, and there are evidences of it. So that show also simultaneously that people can't afford to have discerned properly, proper appreciation of the phrases and of the words and of the sentences of the artists of English arts, for example. And this is a bunch of people tied to my algebra class teacher when I was a sophomore, a Miss Riley, are increasingly involved planting evidence on all sides of my house and putting fake ties and fake natures of ties to me and with people I never even had a conversation with. Now they're fishing for means to cover that up and to cover up with the rest of that recorded. A bunch of people tied to this Joshua Stryker at Trinity College put fake ties, fake nature ties to me, and they put all kinds of fake things and slanders of me in databases. And they have rules with untimely deaths and murders too, with the people at next to the campuses, intercities tied to it, next to Central Connecticut State University, next to Trinity College, Central Connecticut State University is in New Britain, the other one's in Hartford. There are connections between them with the people involved increasingly with Weathersfield police and wire crime, mail crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties to me, falsified police reports, refusing to identify themselves legitimately. One cop forced himself through my door, told me, said something like about the Scaloras to make it look like I know the Scaloras. I never had a word of conversation with Claudia Scalora, and not outside when she was right outside the front door to the whole hotel, not to my hotel door, but the whole hotel. I was right next to the World Trade Center the night before it. Pretty sure that was Claudia Scalora right outside. And these are people involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, even if that wasn't her. And a whole bunch of other countries at the same time. Joe DeMoro and Mike Kerr said that it's men and women associated with a house, with the side entrance to Millwoods Park off of Salstein Highway, and the other side entrances. A Joe Aiello demonstrated, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He also has collusions with a former Mayor Gold. I never had a word of conversation with a former Mayor Gold. His daughter Puppe has roles putting with fake things in databases, fake ties to fake natures, ties to fake motivations for it, with a whole bunch of other people who each year have ties to them more and more. And people with whiting forensics brought them up into that too. And there's a Phil Cololo further involved with the principal upskirt nature and with more medical and sexual offenders of kids involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, And my campus recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he was involved too. With from off campuses, they were forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to do things they didn't want to do, and they didn't do it. But they didn't understand the extent that they're putting fake things in databases with him. He has roles with agency with different, foreign and domestic. Phil Colo. I only saw him outside of a car. I'm not even sure if I saw him inside of a car in my life, but only one time in my life I saw him outside of a car, and it was after a Bob Chase confessed him. He's one. A Bob Chase has Whiting Forensics has said that Phil Colo was one of the ones involved with them, with the principal upskirt nature and falsified police reports. He wouldn't show me the police report. Now they also have this Mendes police officer who's one of the ones who writes falsified police reports, multiple, and they put, they make a mistake and then the courts tell that make confessions for them too. They switch the arresting officers' names, and they confess that they know that they make falsified arrests. They make people keep coming back. They lie about why too. Increasingly, these are people before and after the World Trade Center attack. Connecticut had collusions intercities, and then to hide it with the networks. Their motivations were gleaned partially with the roles next to it. In other words, a bunch of people tied to a Fred Grouzet and a modern pastry have a Ray Colal, a Tim O'Brien, and a Fred Grouzet, who I never saw them. Fred Grouzet saw me about as a stranger alone on my street to make confessions about this. He didn't even go to any of my schools. Went to a school on the other side, like near Mather Street in Hartford. And these are people involved with Garden Street. And these are where the shootings are mostly. And clearer than day, there's been fake science for location /S. We have black pupils' whites of eyes. We were directed to see the whites of eyes. Obviously, because of a breaching method reassigned black pupils' whites of eyes, communication, correlation. So please, follow mandated law. And don't fake and hide and value fake exceptions. You guys are mandated to get me off of fake conversations with the news and to stop hiding what I caught you guys doing sustained with the campuses. There are proofs with the phones too. I don't know the what do you call sought me out after I left them alone. Then he wanted me little what's his name? Richard Dombrowski is another one involved with untimely deaths years apart through his roles with foreign and domestic people and wire crime acts and methods that Wethersfield police and people associated with them demonstrated he's involved with. And his neighbors, Brian Bowen and two. And people with a bunch of stuff they know, like body dumping spots and confirmations of it, confessions of it, with as people next to the state judicial branch offices. Involved also next to Fox Connecticut News and WFSB. Involved interstates and with mayors and their family members in conjunctions. With all natures of investigations, investigators never stop being used remotely by countries A through Z. Forgiveness is to get people to follow the mandated law. Stop faking and changing what people say. This is better than the news. And for the news to pretend that's debatable while they know they stole me to fake conversations, fake ties to them and others. There's a whole bunch of things you guys are preventing me from speaking about. And you guys are using words like extremism while you're tactically delusions raw. Not even a doctor, I could delineate the delusions from the criminally foreign influence tax. You guys have James Madison's communications replaced, first of all. You're not supposed to pretend anyone was our founder as one of those plural ones who had to counter extort the other founders and force them to be our founders, to help our founders. Again, those founders, we don't know them. If anyone was honest about George Washington's extortion like we were asked to be, it would have brought James Madison's plan up which they all used to counter-extort everyone else. James Madison's the only president slash chief that we know was also a founder, that we know for certain. And nature itself shows that even if they weren't in on the plan, any of them, all Native Americans at the time were our founders. But we still are standing a republic that stands abridged. So we must invoke the Romulus clause, and we must make, reveal. I'm not even a lawyer. Many ways, the lawyers too recorded all sides of criminal and civil cases. The lawyers, the sources, their quality of fact should be nature entertained. That you can't entertain that and defend ourselves from exploitation through it. And they attack the delusions wrong. And this would be healed quickly, but you guys have replaced, inside the quality aspects of nature's debate, that relied upon, like where and how people even got away all this time, standing up and saying, "Oh, like even when we see in the arts, people say, oh, our founders owned slaves," or they say in classes, "Oh, that's not our topic." Those books, the school book depository. There's not one lawyer who has integrity, not one name of the people of sciences, all theater. You guys have music playing in the background. The school book depository itself, the syntax of those books has all that we need recorded. You put condition with nature, with black people's rights of eyes, individual species bodies of individual bodies. We have and have had means to discern that the people only allowed her. In other words, too, you guys are playing games with these kids, and you're putting it under guys. They're using the right to lie. Well, they don't have the right to lie. They're putting fake records at and between each of the campuses, and next to it, the differences of guilt, because there are other names involved, including the name of the scientific value of the human fact should be nature breaching method, replaced right from the communications of James Madison and of our plural founders and of nature itself, even though it's increasingly being demonstrated to us by nature itself, communicated to us, not with words, but it is all things. Words were revealed to teach this. Alpha and Omega. This is cipher when Jesus took to be deciphered where Jesus says he is the Alpha and he is the Omega. And nature itself is showing. No, see alpha inside the first word. I mean, in the word alphabet. Alpha inside the word alphabet. A stands for alpha. M, the middle letter of the English language, the 13th letter, that stands for mother. And N is neutrality / neutralizing. And the Trinity. This is all, pantheism is about nature's nature, nature's complete identity. We can discern nature's hyper invisible but still discernible identity generating totally distinct individual species bodies of individual bodies and group differences like male, female, two eyes, two sexes, generated between species bodies so we could discern the identity of nature itself generating it to an extent, which comes also, though, however, with its complete identity relationship to itself here, or the value of that, and it's a special difference, is forced from here, as the earths and or as the oceans, but through us, not through the life forms that we took out as a species body system / as tactical terror from what the species body is as a system for syntax, for distinction / as. Don't make exceptions. Be it.